Willowbrook, a quaint name for a quaint town where every street and every house seemed to tell a story of simpler times. Nestled amid rolling hills, it seemed untouched by time, a place where the past and present coexisted in harmony, but a darkness lingered at its edge. Whispering Woods, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. Locals whispered tales of the woods, their voices hushed, their eyes wide with fear, as if speaking too loudly might summon the very shadows they feared. They spoke of whispers carried on the wind, of shadows that moved just beyond sight, always watching, always waiting. They spoke of things unseen, best left undisturbed, of ancient secrets buried deep within the heart of the forest. Willowbrook was a town of secrets where every smile hid a story and every glance held a warning. Its inhabitants, bound by tradition and fear, whispered of the woods only in hushed tones, passing down tales from one generation to the next. The woods were a place of legend, a place where the veil between reality and nightmare thinned, where the ordinary world gave way to the extraordinary. To venture into the woods was to court madness, to invite the unknown into your heart, to risk losing oneself to the shadows. Jake, however, scoffed at such tales. He was a man of science, of reason, and he refused to be swayed by superstition. He saw the woods not as a place of fear, but as a challenge, a puzzle, waiting to be solved. He longed to unravel their mysteries, to expose the truth behind the whispers, to prove that there was nothing to fear but fear itself. He believed that logic and reason could dispel even the darkest shadows, that the light of knowledge could banish the darkness of ignorance. The dare was issued on a night like any other. The air was thick with the coming of twilight, the last rays of sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Jake and his friends, huddled around a flickering streetlight, their laughter echoing in the stillness of the approaching night, seemed oblivious to the shadows lengthening around them.
Whispering Woods, I dare you.
You don't believe those stories, do you?
It's just a bunch of silly stories, Mark.
The woods were different at night. The familiar rustle of leaves took on a sinister edge, every snapping twig a whispered threat. The air grew colder, the scent of pine needles heavy and oppressive. As they ventured deeper, the last vestiges of daylight faded, leaving them enveloped in an unsettling darkness.
Hear that?
A low murmur seemed to wind through the trees, a sound like voices just out of reach. It was a sound without form or source, a sound that sent shivers down their spines.
It's just the wind.
But even to his ears, his words sounded hollow, unconvincing. The whispers seemed to grow louder, swirling around them, a chorus of disembodied voices whispering secrets in a language they couldn't understand. Fear, palpable and suffocating, tightened its grip on the group. Emily's hand found Jake's, her grip surprisingly strong. Her usual bravado had evaporated, replaced by a raw terror that mirrored the dread creeping into Jake's own heart.
Maybe we should go back.
Don't be ridiculous.
But his voice lacked its usual confidence. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes were tracking their every move. The whispers seemed to be closing in, pressing against them like unseen hands. The forest itself seemed to be closing in, the trees looming over them like menacing giants. Then they saw it. A flicker of movement in the distance, a shadow coalescing in the darkness. It was a figure, tall and gaunt, its edges blurring into the surrounding darkness. Its eyes, 2 points of cold, malevolent light, seemed to pierce the gloom, fixing on them with an unnerving intensity. A gasp escaped Emily's lips, but no sound came out. She clutched Jake's hand tighter, her fingernails digging into his skin.
Oh my God.
Mark, his face ashen, seemed rooted to the spot, paralyzed by terror. The figure took a step closer, then another. With each step, the whispers seemed to intensify, swirling around them like a vortex of fear. The figure moved with an unnatural grace, its limbs long and unsettlingly flexible. The whispers, which had reached a fever pitch, abruptly ceased. The silence that followed was deafening, heavy, and oppressive. It was as if the very air had been sucked out of the forest, leaving a void that pressed down on them from all sides. The figure stopped its advance, its glowing eyes boring into them, filled with an ancient, unknowable intelligence. It seemed to be assessing them, weighing their worth, deciding their fate.
What is that? Is it even human?
For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a sense of something momentous about to occur. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Jake's mind raced, struggling to comprehend what he was seeing, what was happening. His thoughts were a whirlwind of fear and confusion, each one more frantic than the last, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure turned, melting back into the darkness with an unnerving fluidity. It was as if it had never been there at all, a phantom that left no trace. The shadows seemed to swallow it whole, leaving behind only the echo of their terror. The forest was once again silent, but the silence was now filled with a new, more profound dread.
Did you see that? What was that thing?
We need to get out of here, now, before it comes back.
The group stood in stunned silence, the weight of what they had just witnessed pressing down on them, an unspoken agreement forming. They had to leave, and fast. The forest, once a place of adventure and mystery, had become a realm of nightmares. They knew they couldn't stay any longer, not with the memory of those glowing eyes still burning in their minds. The spell broken, they ran. Panic lent speed to their flight, the forest floor a blur beneath their feet. Every step was a desperate attempt to put distance between themselves and the unseen terror that pursued them. They didn't speak, didn't dare to break the silence that pressed in around them, heavy and suffocating. The air was thick with tension, each breath a struggle against the oppressive quiet that seemed to amplify their fear. The only sound was the frantic thudding of their hearts and the rasp of their breath. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen, for the inevitable to catch up with them.
Keep running, don't look back. We have to make it out of here.
Branches whipped at their faces, thorns tore at their clothes, but they didn't slow down. The pain was a distant sensation, overshadowed by the sheer will to survive, to escape the nightmare that had engulfed them. The woods, once a place of mystery and challenge, were now a nightmare come to life, every shadow a lurking monster, every whisper a harbinger of doom. The familiar paths had turned into a maze of terror, each step fraught with danger. They didn't stop running until they burst free of the trees, the welcome glow of the streetlights a beacon of safety in the darkness. The sight of the lights brought a surge of relief, a promise of sanctuary from the horrors behind them. Gasping for breath, they collapsed onto the familiar sidewalk, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape began to ebb, leaving them drained but grateful to be alive, to have made it through the ordeal. The next morning, bathed in the harsh light of day, the events of the previous night seemed surreal, like a bad dream. The woods, visible from Jake's bedroom window, seemed almost peaceful in the morning light.
How can it look so calm now?
Jake, however, couldn't shake the lingering sense of dread that had settled over him. The figure in the woods, the chilling silence, the whispers that seemed to echo in his mind. They were all too real, too vivid to be dismissed. He met Emily and Mark at their usual spot by the old oak tree in the park. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts, the unspoken question hanging heavy in the air.
Did you guys hear the whispers too? They were so eerie.
And the figure, those eyes, they were glowing.
It was probably just some guy messing with us, right?
But the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the image of the figure, its eyes burning with an unnatural light. He couldn't forget the whispers, the chilling silence, the feeling of being watched by something ancient and malevolent lurking in the shadows. They never spoke of that night again, but the memory lingered, a shadow hanging over their lives. The woods, once a place of adventure, were now a forbidden zone, a place of fear and uncertainty.
I can't believe how much this has changed everything.
Jake, his skepticism shaken, was left with more questions than answers. He had stared into the darkness, and the darkness had stared back. The experience had changed him, leaving him with a profound understanding of the unknown, a chilling awareness that some things are best left undisturbed. The whispers he knew would haunt him forever. The woods held their secrets close, a constant reminder of the night he had looked into the abyss.